You're listening to Mr. Thursday Night. Now here's Brett Gombita.
Sorry to Ethan Spazarski. I forgot to use your intro in the last episode. Now to the good stuff, though, and for the second straight season, I'm 1-0. How's everyone doing? I'm Brett Gombita. Episode 5 of Mr. Thursday Night. It's week 2, Commanders, Packers. First, we're recapping last week. Another weather delay in the season opener. 2024 Ravens Chiefs, there was one as well. That weather delay was before the game. This one happened mid-game. And this one really slowed down the Cowboys and Eagles offenses. 0 points put up after the delay. But Dallas did prove they can put points up on the board. Javonte Williams, a couple early touchdowns. You think about what could have happened if Javonte Williams never had the ACL injury in 2022. He might be a top 5 running back right now, but it's cool to see him back in full strength on a new team now. And I'd like to know how many people predicted him to score 2 touchdowns because I didn't see it coming, quite frankly. We'll get into it later, but I had him as my running back sit of the week in my starts and sits. Philadelphia looked concerning early. Some of that probably had to do with Jalen Carter's ejection. Ejected on the opening, right after the opening kickoff of the game for spitting on Dak Prescott. The official ruling is that Carter served his suspension since he was ejected before a play ever happened, so he had to forfeit his game check, and he'll be back this week against the Chiefs. So there's that. Your player of the game, Jahad Campbell. It was his first career game, and he wins Mr. Thursday Night Player of the Game. He saved the game, forcing a fumble in the third quarter on what was the last chance either team had at scoring in the game. That Cowboys drive was really the last chance any team had at scoring, the deepest that a team got the ball into opposing territory in that stretch of the game. And I think Jahad with that just really proved himself in the NFL that he can hang, fitting right in on that Philly defense. So the final score, 24-20 Eagles. I got some picks in from some friends. Benicio DeFalco had the closest score prediction, 31-14 Eagles. I'm going based off of how many points they were away. Benicio was 13 points away. He beat Tyler Aaron by 1 point. Tyler had the 20 correct with the Cowboys, but he had 38 for the Eagles, so he was 14 off. I was actually closer than both of them, but I don't count in this. I'm my own entity. I had 31-17. So I was a total of 10 points away from the actual score. I've never actually guessed a score prediction, down to the exact score. I'm going to do it one of these days, I promise you that. Maybe it'll be tonight. Once again, we have the Packers hosting the Commanders. Before we get into that, though, we'll take a look at our fantasy starts and sits from last week. This was a bad week. Bad introduction week. I went 3 for 8. Almost half correct. Almost 50%. Not quite. Jalen Hurts was my QB start. I'm going to give myself a point there. He was within a half a point of his projection. Justin Fields, though, for my sit at QB, I was incredibly wrong here, as were the odds makers with their 38.5 line for the over-under. The Steelers almost had 38 themselves, and so did the Jets. Final score 34-32 there. Justin Fields proved me wrong. Alvin Kamara was my running back start. He did not meet his projection. Not enough receptions, only 2 catches in the game. I think Kamara's receiving value will increase, though, as the season goes on. Then my running back sit was Javonte Williams. I was just incredibly wrong here. Wrong about the game script overall. I didn't think Javonte would be getting any handoffs because I thought Dallas would be trailing. And that was not the case, though. Pretty back and forth game. And at wide receiver, my start was Terry McLaurin, who only had 2 catches for 27 yards. Definitely not close to beating his projected total. And then I had George Pickens on my bench. Yes, I was right there. 3 catches for 30 yards on the day for George Pickens in his Cowboys debut. Jake Ferguson was my tight end start. Got this one wrong. He had 5 catches, but they were all for minimal gains. Not able to get that projection. And then Pat Freiermuth, my tight end sit. Right with this one, Jonnu Smith got the most volume at the Steelers tight end position in this one. He might be the guy there moving forward. So 3 for 8 overall. Got some work to do to catch up. Last year, my total was 47%. I wanted over 50 this year. We'll see what I can do this week. And we'll lead in with Jordan Love. He's my quarterback start. Awfully close to that projection last week. I think he's going to throw the ball more than 22 times in this game if I had to guess. So I think that right there just alludes to more value. My QB sit, Jared Goff against the Chicago Bears. Goff struggled last week. He's going against his former OC, Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson might know his style, might be able to figure him out with this Bears defense. Running back start, Kyron Williams. He had a pretty solid week 1 against the Texans. I think going against the Titans here, Kyron will get the bulk of the work and be able to produce. My running back sit, playing in tonight's game, it's Austin Eckler. I think this is going to be the game that Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt officially takes over, and he's going to do it in front of the big stage on prime time, Amazon Prime. So maybe we'll see Eckler catch a couple passes out of the backfield, but I don't think he meets his projected total. Then at wide receiver, I've got Matthew Golden. Only 2 catches in week 1, you might be saying. Why am I starting Matthew Golden? Well, I think he's going to build some chemistry with Love. It was his first game, Love had never played it down with Matthew Golden before. But now after 1 week, Golden could be a guy that Love looks for more, especially on a couple of the plays there last week. Jordan Love had Matthew Golden open, but he chose to go in a different direction because he took the first read that was there. But if those first reads are covered, Matthew Golden might be the guy he looks at. And my sit, it's a familiar face. He's probably going to be here until he proves me wrong, and that's George Pickens against the New York Giants. Like I said, I put him here last week. He only had 3 catches. One of these days, though, he'll have a big play and beat his projected total. Just might not be week 2. And then you got the tight ends. Tyler Warren is my start against the Denver Broncos. He was Daniel Jones' favorite target last week, and with Tyler Warren, he also has the potential to be used in the backfield, maybe as a wildcat. I think you can't avoid that. And my sit, if you know where I'm going with this, it's a guy in tonight's game. And for me, this was a toss-up between both Zach Ertz and Tucker Kraft because you take away the touchdown that both of them scored last week and they fall below their projected total. So this is kind of a coin flip. I went with Tucker Kraft. Tight end itself is just such a hard position to pick in fantasy. It's really touchdown dependent. You don't see many guys beating their projected total without scoring a touchdown. This show used to be called Fantasy Football Stardom Situm in 2021. I can't have a negative record like I did last year. I know Spencer Jarvis is always hitting me up for fantasy advice. I should put him onto this. I don't know if he knows about this podcast. But when I used to do this in 2021, the inaugural Mr. Thursday Night, it was under the name of Fantasy Stardom Situm, and Spencer Jarvis was one of my most active listeners, and he claims that I helped him win a championship that year, so hopefully I can help some more people with their starts and sits. Now getting into the matchup itself, let's revisit the week 1s that both the Commanders and the Packers had. Starting with the Commanders, a 21-6 win over the New York Giants, and it was led by the new faces. Deebo Samuel had a great game on offense, as well as Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Bill, if you're not familiar, get familiar. He's going to be the lead back of the future. They didn't trade Brian Robinson for no reason. They had faith in this backfield, whether it's going to be Eckler or Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. And one other thing of note, Chris Rodriguez was a healthy scratch. Some anticipated him getting a small share of the carries. That was not the case. He was a healthy scratch. This wasn't a perfect win for Washington, though. 21-6. Everyone's expecting Washington to score more than 21, especially against the New York Giants. But that's why it's week 1. Everyone's still figuring out things. Doesn't have to be perfect. They walked away with the win. And the defense looked good, holding Russ to 6. Now over on the Green Bay side, 27-13 win over the Lions. And this one was kind of over early. 2 touchdowns and a field goal on the first 3 drives of the game for Green Bay. That's what I'm talking about. That's how you set the tone right there. And the defense looked great in this game as well for Green Bay. We talked about this in the first episode of the season, actually, and it's those new play callers for Detroit. I said it's going to take them a couple of weeks to get used to everything before they start taking over. And what do? They drop their week 1 game. No Ben Johnson, no Aaron Glenn. It's going to be complicated. I think Detroit will be fine in the long run, but you saw them struggle in week 1. As for newest acquired Packer, Micah Parsons, he recorded a sack in the fourth quarter, played 29 snaps in this one, which was actually more than the Packers had planned for him to play. Micah Parsons kind of did some convincing there to get some more snaps. Good for him. He had a good first game. And that leads me into the local ties, which, speaking of Micah Parsons, he's one of the Penn State University players on this Packers team, as well as offensive lineman Rasheed Walker. And I believe Washington has nobody in this game with local ties, at least on their active roster. You look at the practice squad, Darius Rush played a couple games for the Steelers as a defensive back over the last couple years. That's really it on that front. So I think it's time we look at the stats and make our pick for the game. The Packers have ruled out defensive lineman Brenton Cox Jr. as well as defensive back Bo Melton, who actually just switched to D-back, was a wide receiver. But with the Packers' overload of wide receivers, they made Melton switch to DB. His brother is actually a DB on the Cardinals, so fun fact there. We expect Micah Parsons to play in this game, but he is questionable right now with a back injury at the time of recording. Over on the Washington side, punter Tress Way is questionable. No need to worry though, Washington has signed another punter to their practice squad. That could be a move made tomorrow if Tress Way can't go. And then defensive end Dietrich Wise Jr. is also questionable. Green Bay is favored by 3.5 in the match. I'd credit a lot of that to them having the home field. That does a lot for you, gives you an advantage. Over-under is 48.5. The most recent matchup between the two teams was in 2022 when the Commanders took down the Packers 23-21. Aaron Rodgers lost to Taylor Heineke. You know what that means? Jaden Daniels has never faced the Packers. Jordan Love has never faced the Commanders. The all-time series favors the Packers 20 wins to 16. One tie also in the all-time matchup. Looking back at each team's primetime record from last season, Green Bay had a record of 3-2, but one of those two losses was a Thursday night football game, and the Packers have not won a Thursday night football game since 2021. Commanders, similar story, 2-1 primetime record last year, but the one loss, a Thursday night loss to Philly. And speaking of those Eagles, they were the home team in week 1 of Thursday night football last week. They got the job done. And this week, I'm going with the home team again. Give me the Green Bay Packers in this game, 23-17. The Commanders' offense struggled last week against the Giants' defense. Packers have a better defense than that, at least I'd like to think. And with Green Bay able to put up points on the Lions, I think that'll translate into this week. So let me know what you guys think. I'll take some scores from some friends. Benicio won week 1, closest score prediction. See who it is this time here on Mr. Thursday Night. This has been Brett Gombita. Thank you for listening, and I'll be back next week. Dolphins versus Bills.